had scored 50 points, but Schultz coming off a couple podiums, 36 points in this one, and he's in a battle for second place with Cam Peterson. And at the moment, Matthew Schultz on the grid. Hi, Hannah.
Greg, Jason, and talking stats for Matthew Schultz, 8 podiums so far for him this season, and the only other winner on this grid aside from Jake Gagne this season. A really strong start to this season for Matthew Schultz. A bit of a mid-season woes for the team, but they've been working really hard, and things are finally starting to turn around. We've seen 3 podiums in a row the last couple rounds for Matt. What are your expectations with that in mind for this round and for the remainder of the season?
Well, I mean, I kind of feel that over the last couple rounds we've been getting better, catching up to Jake, and, you know, qualifying second. I know Baz has some serious pace too, but we kind of have the target right here next to me, so hopefully have a pretty decent start and take it from there. You know, we know Jake always the first 5 or 6 laps put some serious heaters down, but I think if we're able to follow him from there, we might be able to tag on and have a strong finish and maybe challenge him.
Well, thanks, Matt. And you know, Jamie, it seems like Matt's not really feeling the pressure. Who are you with back there on the grid?
Well, Hannah, it's been since June at MotoAmerica that we've had Kyle Wyman gridded up for a superbike race. He did make an attempt at Brainerd, but after the test session realized that after a broken elbow, he was not quite in physical form. You've been through practice, you've been through qualifying here this weekend, made the decision to race. How are you physically feeling?
Well, a lot better than Brainerd, that's for sure. And yeah, it's been a little bit of a longer road than I wanted it to be, but you know, yesterday felt pretty good. You know, I'm a little bit sore today as kind of to be expected, but it's so great to be back on my Panera-bred Ducati because I've been watching races from the couch at the Ridge. I've been watching Tony ride my bike at Laguna, and then I thought I was good to go at Brainerd, but it just wasn't to be. So it feels good to be able to kind of put together a full weekend here, and I'm excited to see what we can do from the 3rd row.
It's Kyle Wyman, Greg.
All right, good to have Kyle back on the grid after, by the way, winning the Mission Foods Baggers Championship. Jay, pit race is fun.
A lot of ups and downs here. Turn 1 is blind. Then they're going to go up over that wheelie hill. That's where all our fans are, up on that hill over there. I saw you earlier up to turn 3 for the hard braking spot. And then we're going to see a lot of this roller coaster, Greg, and that's exactly what it is. A lot of ups and downs. 7, 8, 9, 10, all back-to-back turns where these guys have all been fighting for that grip that we've heard them talking about. 14, blind corner, one of the hardest ones, I think, on our calendar. Into that chicane. Last corner, there could be some last lap dramas there on that run down to the start-finish line.
All right, and Jason, we're curious to find out where the hot spots are in this one. So we have Cardo hot spots. Tell us a little bit about where some passing is going to happen here.
Yeah, absolutely. And the first place that we wanted to talk about was this is going to be turn 1 as these guys come up over the top of the hill, and then they run down through turn 3 all the way down into turn 5. Then they got this series of S-turns, 7 through 10. It's the place I was talking about where grip so far this weekend has been a little bit of a premium for these guys. They've been looking for it. They've been trying to find it. So this is all that section of racetrack that we're talking about. Then turn 14 up over the top of the hill, this blind corner.
Nice. Our tape producer Trey Beckwith and his wife Armika taking in the sights of Pittsburgh. Jay, starting grid. Jake Gagne, 139.9.
And there you go. Matthew Schultz, second. Baz, third. Tony Elias on the second R1 from attack there, starting from row number 2. Cameron Peterson and Bobby Fong. Then we have Hector Barbera, Kyle Wyman, Bradley Ward. Good to see Bradley. Good solid result there from him from qualifying. Jake Lewis, David Anthony, and Travis Wyman getting to a few of our Superbike Cup contenders here. Corey Alexander, Michael Gilbert, Andrew Lee. Then we have Wyatt Ferris. Good to see Ashton Yates here. We were worried that we weren't going to see him here. And Max Flinders outside of row number 6. Row number 7, Hayden Gillum. Jason Waters and Danilo Lewis. Hunter Dunham, Gerardo, and Perk back there on row number 8. A little bit further back, Giannato Coffey and Ressinger. So we got 9 rows, Greg, of this Honda Superbike grid. And again, you heard Matthew make comment. They've got to do something with number 32 right off the bat because he just gets out to these starts and rolls.
So here we go. Honda Superbike race number 1 from pit race. Revs are up. Lights off. Tony Elias looked like he had a good launch on the freshly attack performance Yamaha. He's left part of your screen, number 24. And it's going to be Gagne who leads the way, but Elias coming up in the second spot ahead of Matthew Schultz. So a good job by Tony Elias in his second appearance in Hono Superbike this season.
Yeah, and he's obviously taken the place of Josh Herron, who still isn't well, so we wish him the absolute best. But right now, look, and you can see Baz makes a quick stab up underneath Scults as they go down through turn 4. It's going to get close as they come down the hill. Scults is trying to get that space back, and Baz moves him out of the way. He's going to lose a spot to Cam Peterson, who goes up underneath as well. So some aggression from the French rider early, and it allows Cam Peterson that spot to third. But look at Tony Elias. He has been fast at the start of these races in the past, Greg, and he has felt comfortable so far on this R1.
How about Cam Peterson, M4 Star Suzuki? His teammate Bobby Fong pulled in and wasn't able to start the race. So Cam Peterson puts himself into third spot.
Baz is going to have to try to get himself through early. You can see he's getting bucked up out of the seat also, and he's got Scults, who's probably going to have a little bit of redness going on there, is wanting to try to get back past that Ducati, as we know he wanted to get off the front with those other two as well. Everybody knows that Gagne's the guy to mark on that first couple of laps, and pretty impressive so far with Tony Elias, who's able to stay there. As you're going to see the two leaders up front there, Baz is going to have a look at Cam Peterson, who made a mistake in the chicane, and I believe he was able to make that pass.
So looking at Jake Gagne, boy, this is the closest we've seen anybody on lap 1 in a long time. So Tony Elias doing a great job as a guest rider, threw a leg over this motorcycle for the first time, did the 24
Gagne's
on Friday. Yeah, Gagne with a mistake.
Makes a little bit of a mistake. He's going to be surprised if he comes around and only sees +1 on that board. He's going to think, I wonder who that is, but it's his teammate for the weekend, Tony Elias. Now, Greg, well, Tony's in there a little bit deep there, so he's just giving that a little bit of advantage back. Now, the R1, we know, is known for its corner speed. We know that it's known to kind of roll through corners and things like that. Predominantly, we've seen Tony Elias set bikes up in a way that allows the bike to be more of a point-and-shoot motorcycle. I think Tony's done a really nice job, even from first session yesterday, at adapting his riding style a little bit differently on this motorcycle.
Yeah, there's been very subtle changes, talking to Richard Stamboli, that they've done to Tony Elias's motorcycle to make it comfortable for Tony. So it's kind of Tony coming towards the R1 and the R1 going towards Tony's riding style at the same time.
Yeah, and right now, he's not giving up anything to Gagne through all those S's if you watch this. I mean, this is going to be super encouraging for Tony if you think he's seen this guy just disappear from the field all year long, and he still has Gagne in his gun sights just up ahead of him. Baz, now you can see behind, has got himself into third, and he's going to try to stretch it on those two guys behind him while closing the distance on the two leaders at the front.
Through the chicane goes Jake Gagne. The only race he hasn't won this season was a race where he DNF'd, did not finish in race number 1. But Tony Elias, what a job he's doing right now. This has got to put a smile on Richard Stamboli's face as a crew chief and a team owner to see his riders going 1-2, a 40.7 fastest lap of the race. So that lap, Gagne gets 0.3 of a second over Elias. But we've seen Gagne faster than the field sometimes, Jay, 1 second. And Matthew Scults talked about it. This is what Gagne's been doing, putting in these heaters in the first 5 laps of the race and really pulling out a gap.
A little deep. Jake's in a little bit deep there, too. I mean, we've seen actually 2 little mistakes from Gagne that we don't normally see. And again, seeing 0.7 on your board as opposed to +1 or +2 like he's normally used to seeing. That time through turn 1, oh, Baz is down. That's going to be probably up in the turn 3 area. He was pushing hard to try to get up to the front of those other 2 guys, and he's tipped off, Greg, it looks like in turn 3.
So Loris Baz, who'd worked himself into third, and I guarantee you was pushing hard, trying to close the gap to get up to Tony Elias, unfortunately is down in this one. That's going to relegate Cameron Peterson to third spot on the M4 Star Suzuki.
Tony's essentially he's doing the same splits. Like the first split that they've went through, he lost 1/10 of a second, which is really nothing. We're going to see them come through this second split here in a minute. The thing is that Gagne, Greg, if you watch him over the course of a weekend, as he goes 34-1 to Tony's 34-6, so he gained a half a second in that second split, Dick Gagne, he goes out there and puts in these laps. A lot of the other guys, Greg, can do 1, 2, 3 laps fast. This guy consistently just throws them down, and he was the first rider to ever get under the 40-minute mark here with his 39 this morning that he ran in qualifying. But he's capable of running these minute 40 lap times over and over as he goes 41-2. 2, but I suspect we'll see him either get back into the high 40s again, or just run this low 41s throughout the entire race.
All right, we mentioned that Bobby Fong had an issue at the beginning of the race. Hannah, what do you know about Bobby Fong?
Well, Greg, if you look, he's pretty far down the order, which is unexpected, running about 26th right now. He pulled in just after the warm-up lap. I guess his brake adjuster was loose and rotating around, so they tightened it up. They expect it to be just fine for the race, but it's a big bummer for Bobby. I know that they were making progress getting him to feel more comfortable on the bike. He's going to have a lot of work to do this race from 26, but hopefully he'll be able to learn enough to prepare him even better for tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the great point that you make, Hannah. The fact is he's getting ready to run these laps, and he gets to run these laps, so anything he wants to try to make as far as changes, he's going to get those laps under his belt, Greg. And the other thing, too, is you never know. He's still on the lead lap, and if we were to have a red flag or something like that, that's why you can't ever give up. You got to just keep grinding it out, and that's what this guy does better than any of them.
So Bobby Fong just going to throw the laps down and grind this one out and see what kind of lap times he can come up with and really analyze what the bike is doing. Jake Gagne is leading now by 2.8 seconds. Last time by, Tony Elias must have done something, Jay, because Tony lost 2 seconds on the last lap.
You're right.
To Jake Gagne.
Yeah, that's a big difference there. A 41.2 to a 43.3, so that couple-second gap, and that's going to be Tony just pushing. Now, you got to remember, this guy's got a ton of years of experience, MotoGP, obviously World Superbike, and obviously also MotoAmerica champion. He has been sitting out, and I think his race fitness might be a little bit better than it was at Laguna. He talked to me a little bit about, he's like, Jay, just being on the bike and getting that race fitness. He looked a little bit better here, and I think these laps will be a little bit more sustainable, a little bit easier for him to sustain. He's still going to come under pressure from Cam Peterson and Matthew Schultz back there, but I think Tony's going to be a little bit more comfortable here than he was at Laguna Seca.
Well, he is looking good right now, isn't he, Jamie?
He is, and he was struggling with a little bit of arm pump this morning following qualifying, so his race fitness isn't quite up to where he wants it to be just yet, but he got this call Tuesday night to come out here and race this Yamaha, and he has a friend who has an R1 road bike at home, and he called that friend Wednesday morning, borrowed the bike, took it out to a go-kart track, and spent about 2 hours just getting comfortable with how the bike moves and what he's going to need to do. He was told that he was coming in as a fill-in rider. They're not going to make a whole bunch of changes as we've seen Tony Elias do over the years. They want him just to come out and ride, go for it. If the podium's in sights, go ahead and take it, make all of those the risks that you need to do, but you're going to have to ride our bike, and that was the mentality that Tony brought in.
And, Jamie, the key there is, what's funny about that is an R1 on a go-kart track. That's how committed he was to getting on an R1 before he actually stepped on one here. And he comes in, Greg, knowing that this team is on the bike to win on. He's not just coming here to just be part of the show this weekend. You can see he's even opened up that gap a little bit on this lap, or this last lap, to those guys behind him. As we look at the splits on our screen, 41.9 to 42.2 for Cam, 34.7 to 34.9. So almost a half a second he has opened up that gap to Cam Peterson on this lap alone.
This battle for third place has championship written all over it, as Cam Peterson talked about it to me earlier this weekend about what a bucking bronco his M4 X-Star Suzuki has been. It's been a challenge to ride, but also fun for Cam Peterson. But in terms of the championship, Matthew Schultz is 35 points ahead of Cam Peterson for that second spot. And also Schultz looking to continue his 3-podium streak, trying to hunt down his fellow countryman from South Africa, Cam Peterson. So Gagne leads by 3.5 seconds over Tony Elias, and then this battle is 5 seconds behind Gagne, who's settled into a pace in the 141 kind of mids. These riders doing 42 mids, so just about 1 second a lap. They're losing. So you have M4 X-Star Suzuki's Peterson, Schultz on the Westby Racing. Hector Barber, Jason, is in 5th ahead of Kyle Wyman. Jake Lewis in 7th. Bradley Ward, Corey Alexander, and Travis Wyman.
Yeah, you can see Matthews close that gap down now to Cam Peterson as Tony continues to just streak away ever so slightly. Schultz is going to try to make a good clean pass here on his fellow countryman somewhere in probably the next couple laps. He realizes that second isn't out of the question here for the Westby Racing R1, but he's going to try to get through as early as he can. Now, I thought we were going to pan back there for a little bit further. Hector Barbara doing a really nice job in 5th on the Westby Racing BMW. These guys roll down now into that chicane.
And the talk of the weekend here at Pit Race has been the amount of rain that's come through in the last couple of weeks, washing this racetrack clean, which of course reduces the grip. Having rubber on the racetrack provides a lot of good traction. And so in talking with Matthew Skoltz about setting up this motorcycle, he made some key points about how there are certain sections of this racetrack where you're on the edge of the tire constantly, going through the S's and then having to pick the bike up. And Jay, he said, one of the things with pit race that's interesting is for some of the corners, for the speed you carry, you don't have a lot of options if the side of the tire goes off to be able to go through a corner a little slower and pick it up because they flow to each other. So you've got to really learn to manage the grip reduction later on in the race.
There's no question about that, because there's so much switching back here. The whole sector 2 basically is going to be from the top of the hill where you're going to see Cam Peterson and Matthew Skoltz right now. Sector 2 starts right in this area. And if you watch, it is all exactly what you're saying, Greg. It's a lot of rights, backs to lefts. And in this area here, this is all downhill. Now, this is the spot where the guys have been having trouble. The bike gets in there, it gets loaded properly, then they go to squeeze the throttle on, and the rear tire kind of protests a little bit. Matthew Skoltz makes a great pass there. And that's what you can do in these S's. If you have that little bit extra grip, you can get on the gas. That bike's going to just squat just ever a little bit more, put that pressure on that tire, and give you that a little bit extra grip. Now, if you don't have a spring rate, the reason why these guys were going softer throughout the weekend is they were trying to get a little bit more weight to try to push that tire into the ground, talking to these teams. So Matthew obviously feels comfortable through the S's, and you can see that roll speed he had, and that little bit of squirt of the throttle in between those corners allowed him to make a move on Cam Peterson.
What a lunge by Matthew Skoltz to work his way into third spot. And how about this guy, Hector Barbera, the Spaniard over here in the Scheibe Racing BMW in fifth. And Jason, he's just been getting better and better as the season rolls on.
Yeah, there's no question. And I think that a lot of us want to see this guy continue to get up closer to those guys. You can see that bike moving around a lot at the top of the hill. He still has that third and fourth place battle just up ahead of him. He can see those guys.
And for Hector Barbera, each and every session this weekend, he's been able to make small improvements. It's another new track for him in his first year here at MotoAmerica, so he has to spend that first session really learning the track, figuring out which way to go. One of the things he struggled with this weekend was stability under power. The bike was just moving around too much over the bumps, and so they've changed the forks, they changed the springs, they tried to sniffen it up just a little bit. But talking to Steve Scheibe, he said, we have to be careful about the changes that we make, because it's more important for Hector to just be comfortable, know which way the track goes, know where he's okay to push, and that's really what they've been working through.
Yeah, and also, Jason, you can start to mess with the balance of the motorcycle. This racetrack is so technical in how you set a bike up. You can go too stiff in the front and too soft in the rear, and then all of a sudden the balance of the bike is out, and you can have problems going over crest of hills and all kinds of stuff.
And that is what a lot of these teams have been experiencing. They say, if we get the bike to have a little bit more grip, then it wants to run wide on the exit, because the weight transfer when we start to get on the throttle is making the bike where we take a lot of the weight off the front forks, and it's making the bike push wide. So these are exactly the things that you have to face when you come to a place like this. And keep in mind, this guy's seeing all these tracks for the first time.
Yeah, looking at Hector Barbera, Jason, and the riding style, it seems very simplistic, and he seems like he's, the bike's not moving around a lot. What do you make of his riding style?
Very simple. And again, another guy with a ton of experience. It's been really interesting to see guys like Baz and Barbera come over here. And obviously, everybody knows that Tony Elias raced with those other two guys in Europe for so many years. So now these guys are all kind of rekindling their friendships again, seeing each other. As Kyle Wyman here on the Panera Bread Ducati, circulating right now in sixth place. They made a pivot change on this bike, Greg, to essentially soften the rear of the bike as well. They didn't want to go a spring rate, so they tried something a little bit different with the Ducati, and it made a big difference this morning for Kyle on this motorcycle. Hannah?
Well, Jason, for Kyle, you said he's been fighting kind of rear grip and chatter like the majority of the other riders out on the grid. But as far as his elbow goes, this is his first race back. He's sore a little bit more today than yesterday, but significantly improved, like he said at the start of the race, over Brainerd. He's been resting as possible, really just trying to build that tricep strength. He said the bike feels really good in those sectors. He's still looking for better roll speed and compliance from that front end. Fortunately, the team was able to test here a couple of months ago to establish a good base setup, and he's got a good amount of laps of this track, so I think he's just he's happy to be back and trying to have some fun once again.
Well, I think two-handed, when you come back from an injury like he did, I know Kyle wanted to be on the bike at Brainerd a couple of weeks ago. He got out there and just realized it wasn't going to happen. So now he's having to go out and put these race distance laps in. He did some of that during practice sessions, but until you really get into this position, you don't really know how things are going to react. But talking to him before the race, he's definitely said my arm's a lot better than it was. They've made some setup changes on the motorcycle to raise the bars up a little bit. He's got a thing on the tank that's actually helped him be able to use his legs a little bit more to take some of that weight off of his elbows.
Kyle Wyman doing a great job. Back in 6th place is the 33 on that Panera-bred Ducati. Good to see the year that Kyle Wyman is having. A better second half of the season. But what about this guy? The 85 of Jake Lewis, who's the first of our riders in our Superbike Cup, the Stock 1000 spec machines. The number 85 on that Altus Motorsports Suzuki GSX-R 1000, Jason has really worked himself into some fine fitness and speed as the season wears on.
Well, besides that, let's just look at it this way. Jake Lewis a couple of years ago really wasn't mentioning in our series anymore. He'd gone off and he got a job, and he started going and doing some racing, some motocross and things. And now he's back, and he's not only back, Greg, but he's dominating the Superbike Cup. He's also our Stock 1000 points leader at the moment. And you see Kyle Wyman is just up the road. But right now, when you look at the Superbike Cup riders, nobody's even close to this guy. He has ran a 43 flat, which is going to be the fastest lap of the weekend for the Alta Suzuki rider. And the next guys that are really closest to him on the same kind of bikes, best lap times, 44.6, 45.3 I'm seeing back there a little bit further. So he's got these guys covered by over a second. And here is some of that battle for the rest of the Superbike Cup guys. You're going to see Michael Gilbert here, Wyatt Ferris, Corey Alexander, and yes, Hayden Gillum, another guy that we haven't got to see much at all this year. As he goes up underneath Corey Alexander, makes a bid for that pass. They go into the S's. Hayden yesterday didn't even get to ride at all, and here he is, Greg, doing a tremendous job on another Suzuki, and he's got himself up there with these guys, and he spotted all these guys a day.
He certainly did. So Jake Lewis leads the Superbike Cup over Travis Wyman by 11 points, but Lewis in the Superbike Cup standings is on a 2-race win streak currently, having 5 so far this season. But Corey Alexander, who's back there on the 23, he's in 3rd in the championship. Michael Gilbert is 4th on the 55, leading this way. And Wyatt Ferris, who's 6th in this championship, on the M4 Star Suzuki, has had quite a surge in the last couple of events.
Yeah, he has. But, I think right now when you look at this group, the guy knifing through them all, Hayden Gillum. How great is it to see Hayden Gillum back on a motorcycle? And we've seen him this year in our baggers class. He did some of those races on a Harley and gets the call here to come to Pittsburgh and race this motorcycle. And so far, Greg, he's doing a tremendous job.
He is, and he led a session in Stock 1000 in qualifying early this morning, just jumping on the motorcycle. It was quite an eye-opener. This battle that we're looking at is for 9th place, with Bradley Ward up the road a piece. Gilbert, Hayden Gillum, Wyatt Ferris, and Corey Alexander with Travis Wyman just off the back. And Hayden Gillum on the 77, looking for a way around Gilbert. So Kawasaki versus Suzuki and a BMW, as Wyman has been struggling a little bit as of late, Jason.
Yeah,
of course, Travis, not Kyle.
Yep, and Travis right now is kind of making up some ground. He was up at the front of this, so something has happened along the way in the last sort of 5 or 6 laps. We saw the BMW rider drop back a little bit. I did see him trying to go up underneath Michael Gilbert somewhere here about 5 or 6 laps ago, it looked like. Then the next time I looked, and he was a little bit further back. So he's kind of clawing his way back into this fight. As you can see, Michael Gilbert now, he's going to have to try to hold off Hayden Gillum. Now, Gillum was really fast, as you're going to see him come up over the top of this hill, turn 14. Gillum was really quick through this next kink. He got by Wyatt Ferris last lap, right through here. And look how fast he is. I don't think he's quite close enough. Is he? Yes, he is.
Wow. What a move up the inside, and Gilbert can't make the corner, so he's got to go wide. So Gilbert will lose some time, and Gillum keeps marching his way deep in the top 10. Hayden Gillum back in action. Good to see him here in our Superbike Cup category and Stock 1000.
And he's going to be a player tomorrow, like in the Stock 1000 race. I mean, let's just be honest. And you see Wyatt Ferris now, another guy that's made some big improvements over the last couple of weekends. He's got Robbie Peterson down there helping him, crew chief, and you've definitely seen a different side of Wyatt. This is kind of where we had expected him from the beginning of the year. Another guy on one of those M4 X-Star Suzuki motorcycles is Bobby Fong, is now caught up to the back of this group, Greg. He's in 14th. But he should be able to go through these guys. He's got plenty of laps to go, 6 to go. Runs a 42.4 that last time by, his quickest lap of the race. Bobby Fong's, that is. So, and this will also help tomorrow with some of the gridding.
Yeah, it certainly will, because if you're new to Hono Superbike here in MotoAmerica, the finishing order for today's race will set the grid for tomorrow with a couple other complications. But, Jay, we've also learned that there are quite a few people that are going to be assessed 5-second penalties for cutting the track, including Michael Gilbert that you saw. But currently it's Jake Gagne who's out front. But so Bobby Fong has been about a second, 1.2 faster than this group in front of him. He does have the advantage of horsepower on a Superbike compared to a Stock 1000 machine. So Bobby Fong doesn't necessarily have to make aggressive passes on the brakes. If he finds a good spot on the track, he can do it both ways. He can do it on the throttle and he can do it on the brakes. As Fong, M4 X-Star Suzuki number 50, has now latched onto the back of this Superbike Cup group.
Yeah, he's definitely, obviously he's on a Superbike, so he can take his time and get through these guys. Probably the hardest one will be that BMW. Travis Wyman always seems to show a lot of speed on that motorcycle, but Bobby Fong is going to just duck out to the left there, try to do not even close. Couldn't quite get by Wyman as they went down into turn number 1. So expect something to happen up out of this straightaway as they come up over the top of that little rise. Let's get a little bit further back. Matthew Schultz still running a solid 3rd place. Looking on our timing here, he's still 3.4 back behind Tony Elias. So again, really nice job from the 24 Tony Elias. But Matthew Schultz last time through 43.1.
Yeah,
Tony Elias is still 42s, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not. Matthew Schultz isn't throwing the kitchen sink at it right now to make up that 3.4 seconds. It's about 4.5 laps to go in race number 1 in Hono's Superbike here with MotoAmerica. And Schultz, an interesting start to the race. It's going to be an interesting chat with him after the race to find out how it went at the beginning. Now, for Matthew Schultz, we talked about it before. Taking a look at our Suzuki Inside the Numbers, we talked about the way he's been able to get himself into second in this championship. First 4 races, 81 points. Then there was that middle run of 5, but it's the last 3 races where he's been able to accumulate 52 points and possibly another 16 in this one, Jay. And you can see the podiums, 4 in the first run and 3. So let's get right down to Hannah.
Yeah, guys, and talking to Schultz earlier today, he said the plan for the race was really focused on tire conservation, and it would ultimately come down to the last 5 laps. I know he was hoping for a battle, but just about managing the best for the end of this race. And he's been feeling strong all weekend in the 1st and 3rd sectors, struggling a little bit in the 2nd sector. So hopefully he's learned enough throughout the course of this race to make necessary changes and hopefully prepare for a battle tomorrow.
Yeah, that's it. When we're watching this bike right now, Hannah, on screen, and when you look at Matthew, you can see there's just quite a bit of pumping and maybe a little bit of loss of grip there. You can see the bike moving around an awful lot. I haven't seen the 2 bikes up in front of him in just a little while, but there's just going to be a lot of movement, and obviously team principal Chuck Chiquetta will get with the guys and all the crew and have a look at this video later, and they'll try to figure out a way to make this bike a little bit more manageable the last half of the race for tomorrow's race.
Yeah, and also it's going to be a little different tomorrow as we expect more rubber to be laid down on the racetrack and perhaps more grip. So this is kind of a moving target here at Pit Race this weekend for all the classes, but we're now in the conditions that everyone hoped we had. Boy, he left a long
you can see it moving,
black mark. Yeah, a lot of Dunlop rubber
there. When a bike is snapping underneath you like that, you're trying so hard to manage it, and your throttle hand is, even with traction control, you're trying to manage it the best you can to put that tire into the ground the right way, and it's just moving around quite a bit. Now, let's look at Jake Gagne's style here. Obviously, Greg, he has built himself up a 7.8 second lead, gets it up off the edge of the tire, and you can see that bike still really driving. Now, this will be another key area as they come up out of turn 5 and 6 here. As he comes out of here, let's see how much this bike moves around. It's just solid, isn't it, Greg? I mean, it doesn't even move.
And with the dominance that Jake Gagne's had this season, I asked him after qualifying if he makes the same race decisions, if he pushes as hard as he did at the early stages of this championship season. And he said, listen, my job's to come here and race. It doesn't matter if it's the first race of the year or the last race of the year. I have to do everything I can to make sure that we bring this bike home at the top of the podium. You see him still pushing, even with almost an 8-second gap to his teammate Tony Elias in second place. So Jake Gagne is certainly not giving up anything despite all of the wins he has this year.
And Jamie brings up a good point, Jason. Is there a danger if you start to roll off the throttle and give you a moment to think about stuff, or from your perspective, having won championships and led plenty of races in your time as a racer, is it better to just stay focused and just keep after it?
I think that it's great to just be able to stay after it if you feel as comfortable as he does on the motorcycle. But I think if Jake decides, hey, I got an 8-second lead, I can knock it off half a second a lap. It's not going to affect him too much. The thing that I find really impressive about this, and talking to Richard Stamboli even, is that really nothing else exists for Jake Gagne other than his motorcycle and the track. He doesn't think about the competition. He doesn't think about the championship. He's not thinking about any of that stuff. He's just getting here on a race weekend, taking it one step at a time and not changing his program. But really, this guy's got to be the impressive guy of the weekend so far. He had never ridden an R1 motorcycle till he borrows a friend's bike, like you heard Jamie talking about earlier, and going to a go-kart track. He comes here, hooks up with Richard Stamboli, and look what he's doing right now, Greg. 9.8 back, yes, but he's still staying very consistent with his times, and he's going to learn from this. He's going to learn from this going into tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely, and that's Tony Elias' style. The debrief is going to be a huge part of what happens today, even after Tony, if he's able to get this thing all the way to a podium. Fresh and lean, Attack Performance Yamaha. If you're just joining us, Tony Elias filling in for Josh Herron, who is still suffering some effects of a COVID-19 positive from a couple of weeks ago. Herron trying everything he can to get back to MotoAmerica Hono Superbike racing, trying to get his fitness up, and has just been struggling a little bit with getting that fitness back. We wish Josh Herron a speedy recovery, but that left the door open for Tony Elias. Of course, we saw last time at Brainerd, it was down to J.D. Beach, who is racing this weekend in his normal American Flat Track Series. So Tony Elias gets the call, and in talking to Tony Elias this weekend, I asked him, so Tony, you said when you came to fill in for Kyle Wyman that you didn't have fitness. Have you been working out since? And he said, oh yeah, I got the bug. As soon as I went down the hill after the race weekend was over, he looked at his wife Christy and said, I am getting back at it 100%. And Tony's been working out like a fiend just in case an opportunity like this presented itself.
I mean, what an opportunity. As you see the white flag come out, what an opportunity to get to be with this Attack team. I mean, when you see what Gagne's done on this bike, I think it's a dream of every rider to think, God, it would be fun to swing a leg over that bike, and he's getting the opportunity to do it this weekend, and he's definitely making the most out of it.
So Jake Gagne on the final lap of this race comes across the line, 10.7 seconds he has in his back pocket to navigate the 19, I guess you'd say probably 21 turns if you included the chicane here at Pit Race. Still working it the same way, Jay, getting on the gas, getting up on the meat of the tire.
42.1 that last time by, so put that in perspective. The fastest lap of the race, 40.7 from Jake Gagne, so he was only 1.4 seconds off his fastest, and he doesn't have any reason to continue to push. He's got a 10-second lead, but this is just his comfort zone. This is where he's at. I saw him also while I was talking to Stamboli before the race, and he's just as mellow and calm as ever, and he's just having a good time. Always got a smile on his face, and ready to go every weekend.
Yeah, and enjoying the fans, too.
Yeah.
Really always underneath the canopy and available to talk to fans, and always with a smile on his face, enjoying that interaction. What we're witnessing here is something completely amazing. We're looking at a rider who is one with his motorcycle and his crew. A change in crew chief to John Cornwell has really shown how great two people can make a program. As waves to the fan, Jake Gagne comes through the final corner, heads towards the checkered flag, and will log victory number 12 of the season and his 12th in a row as he extends the MotoAmerica Hono Superbike race win record. And Tony Elias will come across the stripe in second place in his debut ride on the Fresh and Lean Attack Performance Yamaha. Schultz in third will fill out the podium. Cam Peterson in the books on his M4 X-Star Suzuki. We await the arrival of Hector Barbera, number 80. And Jake Lewis working his way to 8th place and number 1 in the Superbike Cup. The Stock 1000 Spec Machines. Barbara has taken the checkered flag. He's in the books. Kyle Wyman comes across the stripe. You can see where Jake Lewis is going through the chicane. Going through 17 and 18 on his way to the final turn 19. So a great job by the Altus Motorsports Suzuki rider. And another victory, and will extend his lead in the Superbike Cup 2021 season championship.
Those guys weren't far behind him at the end. They started catching him. Hayden Gillum, Michael Gilbert, Corey Alexander, all those guys, they started, Wyatt Ferris started to catch up, but
really, Travis Wyman had a bit of a problem, goes 14th, comes across the stripe. But it's all about this guy. And Jay, this is exactly what Scholz was talking about. When you look at that progression, it's the pressure he puts on the rest of the field in those first 5 or 6 laps that really set the pace. So we'll step away from pit race. We'll take a break. When we return, we're going to talk to Jake Gagne about that race, and we'll get to talk to Elise way into winner's circle after another dominating victory, 11.3 seconds over his weekend teammate, Tony Elias. Let's take a look at those final results, Jason. Confirmation of what we saw. Gagne, Elias, and Matthew Scholz with Cam Peterson over Hector Barbera, Kyle Wyman, Bradley Ward, Bobby Fong, and Jake Lewis. Hear about what happened between him and Baz. But we'll have more from pit race when we come back on FS1.